So we've moved on from direct variation to indirect variation. And in this problem, we're told that the number of hours it takes for ice to melt varies inversely with the air temperature. Suppose a block of ice melts in 2 hours when the temperature is 65 degrees Celsius. So first we have to recognize what is it that is varying inversely. So we're looking at the number of hours it takes to melt ice varies inversely with air temperature. So now let's define our variables. Let's make H equals the number of hours to melt, and let's let T equal the temperature in degrees Celsius. Now that we've defined our variables, remember that varying inversely simply means we have an output, we'll call it y in its most general form, equals a constant of variation over the input, x. So in this case, what's our hours? I just answered it, what is our output? Our output is hours. It's the number of hours it takes to melt. So we'll replace y with h. Then we still have our constant of variation. And then our input, x, in this case, is going to be temperature. So we'll replace this with T. Now we're given H is 2 hours when the temperature is 65. So T equals 65 degrees Celsius. So we substitute those into the equation that we set up, and we get 2 equals K over 65. Multiplying both sides by 65, we get K equals 65 times 2, which is going to be 130. So we end up with the equation H equals 130 over T. The number of hours equals 130 divided by the temperature. So now we're looking at a problem. This is our equation, and we could substitute in, if you take 130, divide it by 2, or divide it by 65, you're going to get 2, so that verifies that our equation is correct. And now we just substitute. We're looking for how many hours at 78 degrees. So H equals 130 over T. We're given that T is 78, so the temperature is 78 degrees. So 130 divided by 78. We could reduce this into a fraction if we wanted to, a reduced fraction. Or we could simply write it as a decimal, but we're going to end up with an approximation if we ended up with a decimal. So we'll leave it as H equals the number of hours equals, this would be 1 2/3, or 5/3 hours. Now technically with time, since we usually divide it up into minutes, that means that this would be 5, or H equals 5/3 is 1, and as I said, 2/3, so 1 2/3 hours, which equals 1 hour plus 2/3 times 60 minutes in an hour. And that would equal 1 hour, and 60 divided by 3 is 20, times 2 is 40, so 1 hour and 40 minutes. Now, does that make sense? It's 2 hours at 65, 78 is a little bit warmer than that, so yes, this does make sense. And what we'd want to do is, if we plugged 5/3 into this, we'd want to verify that that equals 130 78ths. But for now, I can verify that it does. So let's write this out in a complete sentence. It would it would take 1 hour 40 minutes to melt the block at 78 degrees.